What is up guys, Jarv here, back today jumping into Destiny 2. Now in the video today we're doing an exclusive tier list, so we're going to be taking a look at every season, every DLC and ranking them and sorting out the best from the worst in the entire Destiny 2 life cycle. So if you want to see which one comes out on top and which ones are really dragging their heels at the bottom, then be sure to stick around and enjoy the video. If you do enjoy the video, be sure to leave a rating down below. That super helps me out here on the channel. And if you're brand new here, I want to keep up to date with all the latest Destiny 2 content, then be sure to hit subscribe as well. But without further delay guys, let's jump into the video. So what is an absolute first for us here on the channel, we're starting to look at tier lists, and we're going to kick that off with seasons and DLC and break down each and every one. If you have any ideas for future tier lists, then be sure to sound off down in the comment section below, and you may find that become a video later in the season. Now before we jump into the meat of today's video, I want to once again invite you all to the Jarv Community Hub. This is a fast growing community Discord we have with 3,500 amazing guardians, so whether you want to just talk about Destiny or share your god roles or even get a fire team together to get things done, then be sure to jump in. It's available to absolutely everyone, and you can find the link to our community Discord down in the video description below. Now jumping back into today's video, we're going to break off all the DLCs and seasons in chronological order, starting from the vanilla version of the game all the way up to Season of the Hunt Beyond Light, the most recent iteration of Destiny 2. Now with that all being said and done, let's jump into the video. So we kick off with Destiny 2 Vanilla. So this was launched back on the 6th of September 2017. Seems like a long time ago. That was originally on console and it was later launched on PC as well in October of the same year. Now the base game introduced new destinations, new mechanics, things like the class ability, but also the double primary weapon setup too. This was later changed in Destiny later down the line, and we'll catch up with that in a later season. Now the main story around the vanilla version of the game was the Red War campaign. This was about fighting against Gaul and the Red Legion and ultimately defeating them and waking up the Traveller. Now upon awakening the Traveller, we got that awesome cutscene which gives us the first glimpse of the pyramid ships way out in the solar system, many light years away from our galaxy. Now as well as that though, we also had a power cap of 300, which you could increase to 305 using mods, and we also got the Leviathan raid. And the Leviathan itself is pretty much an entire destination which later housed raid lairs. These were introduced in later seasons, and once again we'll catch up with those later in the video. Now with that all being said, the Destiny 2 Vanilla felt very slow. It was mechanically a lot slower than Destiny 1. It also had the double primary meta as well, which made gameplay very slow and tedious too. Outside that, the playlist activities were pretty much identical to Destiny 1, and if anything, it felt like a much smaller version of the game we just stepped away from. Now with that all being said, the base version of Destiny 2 for me comes in at the D rating. In summary, it formed a great foundation, a brand new engine to develop Destiny 2 on. But outside that though, the game at the time felt like a shadow of its former self. Now next up we have Curse of Osiris. This wasn't officially Season 2, as seasons weren't officially a thing at this point, but it is the first DLC that was added to Destiny 2, and this was added on the 5th of December 2017, and is actually often considered probably the lowest point in Destiny 2's life cycle. Now Curse of Osiris saw the introduction of Mercury, a destination that hadn't been explorable as a destination up until now, and we had to help Brother Vance and Osiris fight Panoptes, who was a Vex Mind. Now alongside this, we also got access to a new weapon forge that allowed us to forge around a dozen weapons. But at this time, Destiny 2 only had fixed roles, so once you'd unlocked all the weapons, there was very little replayability in the mode itself. Now if you were able to complete all the forges of the weapons, you could unlock Sagira as a ghost, and as well as this, there was also a slight increase in the power cap. It increased to 330, going up to 335 with mods, and Eater of Worlds was added as the first raid lair on the Leviathan, offering a slight additional end game activity. In summary though, Curse of Osiris was for me probably the lowest point in Destiny 2's life. It comes in at an F rating, mainly because Mercury, whilst it was a great destination to add, was relatively small. You couldn't even get your Sparrow out back then, but also having a forge where you could only forge a fixed amount of weapons with fixed roles was very limiting and offered no replayability in any of the DLC's content. Next up we have Warmind, and this is the final mini DLC that Bungie released back in May in 2018, and after this point they officially moved to a seasonal model. Now Warmind took us back to Mars, a new iteration of Mars, not the one back from Destiny 1, and we had to help Anna Bray and Rasputin take on a huge hive worm. Now, one of the best things to be added in this season was Escalation Protocol. It was a huge defense horde activity that you could do in the public space, and with a little bit of work you can get 9 people in the same instance, making it a very fun activity indeed. Now, alongside this, we also had a very first secret mission for an exotic weapon. It was called the Whisper, and this was for the Whisper of the Worm, which was the exotic sniper rifle, which is a brand new version of the original Black Hammer and Black Spindle back from Destiny 1. Now, as with previous DLCs, the power cap did increase to 380. You could reach 385 if you use some mods, and you also had a second raid lair 2 with Spire of Stars being added once again to the Leviathan. Now, Mars itself had some pretty amazing secrets, some that offered exotic swords, but also the Sleeper Simulant, once again a reprised weapon from Destiny 1. In terms of loot, the Spire of Stars had a brand new armor set, although very similar to previous raid lairs, and also Escalation Protocol had its own weapons and armor, with the weapons being absolutely standout from that point forward. Now, Warmind overall was a much more enjoyable mini DLC when compared to Curse of Osiris, but it was arguably not much better than vanilla Destiny 2 itself. Whilst it offered additional weapons and armor to chase, that in itself is not enough for me to warrant it a higher rating. Now, next on our list is Forsaken, and the first official season at least called Season of the Outlaw, which isn't often referred to when you think about Forsaken itself. Now, this was released in September 2018, and it marked a massive shift in the direction for Destiny 2 and offered the huge reset that the franchise needed. Now, when I think of Forsaken, it reminds me of the Taken King and what that did for Destiny 1, except this managed to do it, and very well, for Destiny 2. Now, Forsaken itself offered 2 brand new destinations. We had the Dreaming City, but also the Tangled Shore. And as well as this, we had an absolute Destiny first, with the first ever dungeon making its appearance inside Destiny 2. This was the Shattered Throne, and this offered a high skill, puzzle solving, sort of mini raid experience for a 3-man fire team. Also offered a unique challenge for the solo players if you want to go for that solo flawless as well. As well as this, we got an absolutely huge raid, the one with the most encounters ever seen inside a Destiny raid, called The Last Wish, and it's still arguably probably one of the best, if not the best raid inside Destiny 2 itself. Now, as well as these though, we also had a brand new playlist activity added to the game. It was a PvE cross PvP mode, and this came in the form of Gambit, and that offered a unique experience to the game where it's primarily PvE focused, but offered those short bursts of PvP when it comes to invading the other team. Now, the power cap was increased massively as part of this expansion. It increased to 600, so as well as all the content that was added and some of the massive mechanical changes to the game, it offered a huge power chase for new and returning players too. Now, as things currently stand, Forsaken has never been surpassed in terms of its size, but also how it re-energized Destiny 2 as a game. And it's with that being said, Forsaken for me takes the S rating in this list. It offered so much, it fixed so much, and it made Destiny 2 what it felt it should have been when it originally launched back in 2017. Next up, we have Season 5, Season of the Forge, also known as the Black Armory. Now, this was the first time that a piece of DLC had officially been classified as a season, and this launched in December in 2018. Now, Black Armory itself offered some of the best weapons we've ever seen inside Destiny, whether that be exotics or legendary. You had things like the Izanagi's Burden, the Le Monarch, and also Jotun that you could get from the forges as exotics, but also the legendary weapons from the forges themselves. You had things like Hammerhead, Kindled Orchid, and Ringing Nail, which were absolutely god tier when it comes to weapons inside the game. Now, in total, the Season of the Forge offered 4 individual forges across multiple destinations, and alongside that, we also got the Scourge of the Past raid. This offered a raid in the last city, the first time we'd step foot in there in Destiny 2 itself. The power cap had also been increased to 650, so a slight increase over the Forsaken power cap, but the only real negative of the Forge itself has been the high power level to initially access some of the early pieces of content. Bungie had to jump in and adjust the power level to allow players to get more involved in the first few days of the season. Now, all in all, the Black Armory offered a great story, a very strong character in 81, some pretty incredible weapons, and some pretty fun forges too. And it's with that in mind, it gets the B rating as one of the better seasons that we've had in Destiny 2 so far. Now, for Season 6, we had Season of the Drifter, also known as Joker's Wild, and this was released in March 2019. Now, the main part of this season was the focus around Gambit and some new reiterations of that mode. Things like Gambit Prime was introduced, as well as the Reckoning. Now, alongside those modes, we also had another new secret mission. This was for Outbreak Perfected, an exotic pulse rifle that was originally Outbreak Prime back in Destiny 1. Now, no new raid was introduced as part of this season, and no new dungeon either. Some of the best things to come out of the Joker's Wild season was in fact some of the weapons. You have some absolute god tier weapons in there, things like Spare Rations, which is absolutely top tier, Soul Survivor, Last Man Standing. The list goes on. There's some pretty incredible weapons, and you could obtain these not just through Gambit but also Reckoning 2. So whether you wanted to jump into the PvEVP mode or even just stick inside PvE and play Reckoning, you always had an opportunity to get your hands on these weapons. Now, whilst I don't think Season of the Drifter has been the worst season we've seen inside Destiny 2, I do feel shoehorning players into a game mode that is not entirely popular with the majority of the player base does limit its amount of appeal. Now, in Season of the Drifter, there wasn't a very strong narrative direction. In fact, most of the story was told through the invitations of the 9 bounties, which were given by Xur on a weekly basis. Now, taking everything into account, and as I said before, I don't believe it's been the worst season we've had, but there's been many better ones, and with that in mind, I'm going to give this an E rating, as there was definitely a lot of room for improvement for that particular season. Next up is Season 7, Season of Opulence, and this was launched in June 2019, and it was an instant hit with the introduction of Menagerie. This was a PvE activity, a 6-man activity that allowed you to choose exactly which weapon and armor piece that you wanted at the end of the activity. You also had bonus loot for the first few runs of the week, and as well as this, we also had a brand new raid called the Crown of Sorrow, and this was also based inside the Menagerie, which was all set inside the Leviathan. Now, the Menagerie itself offered a new exotic quest for the Truth rocket launcher, and the Crown of Sorrow offered a unique challenge and also some excellent weapons and armor too. Now, the power cap for the season was increased to 750, which keeps it in line with the 50 power increases season after season. Now, Season of Opulence offered some of the most replayability we've seen in any Destiny 2 season, allowing players to utilize their time to get exactly the loot they want, whether that be weapons or armor, was nailed on the head in Season of Opulence. Now, it's with that in mind, I'm going to give this one an A rating. It comes out on top so far in terms of seasonal content, and is often missed and referred back to when looking at current seasons inside Destiny 2. Next on our list is Season 8. This is officially Shadowkeep, which was Season of the Undying. Now, this is the second major expansion to hit Destiny 2, and it was launched in October 2019, and basically started the wheels in motion for the start of Year 3. Now, Shadowkeep itself was the first major expansion developed entirely by Bungie Studios themselves. At this point, they had separated from Activision and any of the third-party studios that had assisted in any previous development in the game up until now. Now, Shadowkeep offered the first opportunity for players to come face to face with the darkness and the pyramid ships, things that have been teased to us since the launch of the game back in 2017. Now, Season of the Undying saw the introduction of the Season Pass, a brand new 100 rank pass that you could level up throughout the season by earning in-game experience. It also introduced a brand new seasonal artifact that not only allow you to gain additional power levels, but also unlock seasonal specific mods. Now, in previous seasons, if you wanted to increase your power level above the seasonal cap, you needed to apply mods to your armor, and this was replaced with a pinnacle gear system in Shadowkeep, offering you an additional 10 power levels to chase by earning pinnacle loot. Now, as with that in mind, the power cap was also increased to 950, achieving 960 with pinnacle gear. Alongside all this, we had a reprised destination of the moon, which incorporated a Garden of Salvation raid, which took us to the Black Garden, and also a brand new dungeon called the Pit of Heresy. Now, Shadowkeep was Bungie's first major expansion that they'd done independently, and with that in mind, it's naturally not going to be as big as Forsaken. Sadly though, that does mean it doesn't achieve as a high rating as that, and comes in with a C rating on this occasion. But as always guys, be sure to let me know your thoughts on Shadowkeep and any of the seasons so far down in the comment section below. Next up is Season 9, Season of Dawn, one of my personal favourites that was released in December 2019, and this took us back to Mercury, this time where we could actually pull out our Sparrow. As well as this, we had a much more impressive story in our midst, where we had to return to the Infinite Forest and travel back through time to rescue Saint 14. This also introduced a sundial, very similar to Menagerie, where you could actually choose the loot that you wanted at the end, and also bosses that rotated on a weekly basis too, offering variety within the activity itself. Now, Season of Dawn offered one of the best narrative stories we've seen for a seasonal drop, so far in Destiny 2. As well as that, we had a new range of weapons to go after, some reprised back from the Curse of Osiris era too, although this time with random rolls. And once again, we had a brand new season pass to complete, all with 100 levels. We also had the reprised map from Destiny 1, Rusted Lands, re-added back to the Crucible playlist, and the unique exotic scout rifle Symmetry, which was the seasonal exotic available for Season 9. Now with its sundial activity, with its rotating bosses, its unique loot that you could choose what you wanted at the end, but also the very strong, excellent story that was told throughout the entire Season 9, Season of Dawn is one of the best seasons we've had in Destiny 2 so far, and with that in mind, it gets an A rating alongside Season of Opulence. Now next up we have Season of the Worthy. This was Season 10 that was launched in March 2020. Now the primary focus of this was all about Trials of Osiris. They introduced a new Seraph Tower public event, as well as the Seraph Bunkers, as a way of equipping Rasputin to protect us from the Almighty, which had been sent on a collision course with the last safe city on Earth. Now Trials of Osiris was the main addition for Season of the Worthy, and this was added as a result of our actions in Season of Dawn the previous season. With that being said, the rest of the activities for this season were relatively light. The Seraph Tower public event was quite difficult to achieve with a smaller fire team, and as a result it made the community effort a real challenge indeed, so much so that Bungie once again had to jump in to make it a bit easier for us to achieve the community effort. Now as a result of our success on the community challenge, we were able to equip Rasputin and experience the first live event in Destiny 2's history, witnessing the Almighty coming crashing down just behind the last safe city. Now whilst Trials of Osiris isn't for everyone, Warmind weapons and Seraph weapons were introduced, allowing Warmind builds to become the forefront of most PvE builds in the game, so much so they're some of the strongest PvE builds even now. And alongside this, we got a strong story narrative with the approach of the pyramids through our solar system, creating an impending doom, and it's with that in mind, Season of the Worthy gets a C rating from me, delivering an average experience overall. Now to wrap up Year 3, and after the live event which saw the Almighty crash behind the last safe city, we enter Season 11, Season of Arrivals, and this was delivered in June 2020. Now this particular season offered Umbral engrams, and this allowed players to chase very specific weapons and loot, which has always proven popular, as you can see from previous seasons. Now as a result of Season of the Worthy, the pyramids had also fully arrived in our solar system, taking up huge amounts of the sandboxes over various destinations throughout the Director, and these included Io, Titan, Mars and Mercury, 4 destinations which are no longer available. And the main use of the Umbral engrams was over the prismatic recaster in the tower, which you could find next to the Drifter, and this is where you could farm out various bits of loot, but also mods specific to the season. Alongside this, we had some major story beats delivered from Eris herself over on Io. These varied week on week and helped bring us up to date for Beyond Light. Now the power cap was also increased once again to 1050, achieving 1060 if you can get the pinnacle gear. But unlike previous seasons, this season also offered an unexpected surprise, and we actually got a dungeon as part of a seasonal drop, and this was the Prophecy. Now this particular dungeon is themed around the 9 and is one of the most popular, if not the most popular dungeon inside Destiny 2 at the moment. It offered unique loot, but also reprised weapons, again back from the Ikelos range, offering additional Warmind build options for the up and coming season. Now the Prophecy dungeon itself was the main piece of activity content added with this season, and whilst there's some strong story beats to lead us into Beyond Light, it's still not up there in terms of top tier seasons for me personally. I put this in the B rating alongside the Black Armory, as it offered great additions to the game and set us up for success for future seasons. Now to wrap up the video, we arrive at Beyond Light. This is Season 12, Season of the Hunt. Now this was released on the 10th of November 2020 and kicks off Year 4 for Destiny 2. Now as we all know, we have new elemental powers added in the form of stasis, with a new subclass tree applied to each and every class. And it's with this in mind we get our first opportunity to wield the power of the darkness and finally step over that line between light and dark. Now with the introduction of Beyond Light, we see many destinations vaulted to make space for up and coming future content. So with previous destinations that had pyramid ships looming over them, Io, Titan, Mars and Mercury had been removed from the game. With the launch of Beyond Light though, we saw the addition of Europa added, and also the reprised version of the Cosmodrome. Now as always with a major DLC, we saw the power cap increase to 1250, 1260 with the pinnacle gear, and a brand new raid was also added called the Deepstone Crypt. Now Europa as a destination offers some new unique challenges. We have Legend and also also Master Lost sectors, which offer exclusive exotic loot. We also have Empire hunts, as well as Exo challenges. Now, Beyond Light sees some major characters return, with Varix and Elsie Bray returning to the forefront. We also see the inclusion of Eris and also the Drifter, forming the early parts of a Dark Vanguard to assist in the wielding of dark powers. Now, seasonally for Season of the Hunt, we see the return of Aldrin Salv, this time though as the Crow, and he is the assistant of Spider over in the Tangled Shore. With this particular seasonal content, we get Wrathborn hunts, where we have to chase down Wrathborns, which are infecting Hive and Fallen across the Tangled Shore and the Dreaming City, and this is all a result of Xivu Arath, who is helping Savathun in the run-up to the Witch Queen, which launches later on this year. Now, all in all, Beyond Light isn't a bad expansion at all, especially as an independent effort from Bungie on their own. It offers an entirely brand new destination, Europa, which has only ever been teased as part of concept art back from Destiny 1. That aside, the raid itself is very accessible. It offers a lot of replayability in terms of Spores of Conquest, which allows you to farm loot even though you may have already completed it for that particular week. Now, putting the raid aside, as we've mentioned in the video, there's quite a lot to do in Beyond Light. It's having enough reasons to do it though that is the issue. It's having enough desirable loot that is good enough and is worth the player's time and investment in order to chase it. So all in all, Beyond Light is a good foundation for year 4. It's a good platform for Bungie to build on for the rest of the up and coming year and the following seasons. Is it better than Forsaken? Absolutely not. Is it better than Shadowkeep though? I would say so, and it's with that in mind I give this a B rating as well, making it the best independent expansion that Bungie's delivered to date. So there we have it guys, a full breakdown of every season, every DLC, and ranked as part of a tier list. As always, there's a lot of opinion whenever putting a tier list together. I've tried to keep it as factual as possible and keep any of my personal preferences aside. But as always guys, be sure to sound off down in the comment section below. Let me know your thoughts. Do you agree with me, or do you think that some seasons are better than others? As always, keep it constructive and sound off down below. Now, if you have enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a rating down below. That super helps me out here on the channel. And if you're brand new here and want to keep up to date with all the latest Destiny 2 content, be sure to hit subscribe as well. I'm going to jump back into the game as always guys, but I will catch you all again very soon.